You can see me play live and get gameplay like you'll see in this video by subscribing and looking out for my streams, generally pushing out between 3 and 6 a week. I'll see you there. It's 2021 now, as I'm sure, or I at least hope, most of you are aware of, and it's now way over 4 years since BF1 released, and yet it's having somewhat of a resurgence again. Creators are back on it, such as myself. Streams are popping off. There are no problems finding full games on it as long as you use the server browser, not the quick search, ever. Don't ever use the quick search. And I said last year I'd do this, so here we are. The latest update to my best guns in BF1 kind of series, I guess at this point. The early 2021 edition. As ever, this is just my opinion of the best guns for each class in terms of how I play, and it does change over time. And the other major part of the video is you guys sharing what your best gun is for each class in the comments below. I've been pretty much wrecking with these guns recently on stream, so they've become my solid go-to options. Let's kick this off. This video is brought to you by the Board of Awesome from the epic people that support the channel on Patreon, and the channel members who you can also join for exclusive channel perks by hitting the join button below. And the current goal for the channel is to hit 70k subs, currently sitting at 62k, and with many people watching via recommendations rather than subscribing, that seems very attainable. So hitting that sub button to not miss out on content or streams will be fantastic. Thank you so much. Assault class first, and my heart absolutely wanted to pick the MP18 Trench. That is actually my go-to assault weapon, making my initial statement about all these guns being my go-to ones a bit flawed. The rest of them are, but for assault, if I want to be honest, I have to go with my head, and I have to pick the SMG08 because I just think it's a bit too good. It's a little too overtuned, sitting above the threshold for reward versus ease of use. It has so much ammo and it's so easy to use in close quarters. I use the factory variant when I do use the SMG08, and it's basically a case of just holding down the trigger a lot of the time, sometimes in ADS, but often in hipfire, and just waiting for the enemy to drop. This has been one of the dominant weapons in Battlefield 1 ever since it received that total rework from DICE a long time ago, going from a slower firing SMG that actually filled a gap that no other gun did for assault, to now just being a huge magazine spray and pray gun. Now, as with everything on this list, and all the lists I've ever done really, this is all situationally dependent, as well as being affected by the skill set of the user and the opposition you're playing against. But for closer range stuff, the SMG08 is just disgustingly good. Not killing quite as fast as some options, but providing a fast enough kill time to compete, while being able to take out multiple people per reload, and once again cementing the point, it's easy to use for a lot of players. It's not good for longer range situations at all, but I will add that if you're a capable player, you can mitigate this with solid aim, positioning, and tap/burst firing. It's just a bit too good, as I said, so while I'd rather use the MP18 Trench, I do still recognise that the SMG08 is just a bit too strong overall, and it replaced my pick from last year purely because it's just easier to use for the average player. Now, for some actual numbers, it utilises 81 rounds per reload, fires at 770 rounds per minute, and requires 4 shots to the body to kill within 12 meters and 5 out to 22 meters. Pretty lethal and forgiving numbers. Think of the Type 2A in BF5 if you played that game, especially before it got nerfed a bit. Not the most versatile option, but it allows super easy kills at its optimal range with few drawbacks within that situation. But that's enough of assault, onto medic, and this gun has easily been my most used on stream in recent weeks. It's been ridiculously good for me, and I only really realised how good it could be for me in recent times. It's the Fedorov Avtomat Optical, and how often the Fedorov is picked out by quote-unquote casuals as being a good gun, and then longer-term players sigh because they're like, oh really, the Fedorov? But I'll explain why I genuinely think this is a top-tier option for the more able player. I truly feel it performs way outside of its intended balance capabilities, but only when used correctly. So first off, I'm talking about the optical variant, as I said, not the much more commonly selected trench variant. Now obviously the Fedorov is kind of a medic and assault hybrid gun, meaning it's a full auto weapon that you can combine with healing and reviving from the medic class. Its main drawback being that it's just not as slayer friendly outright for close quarters engagements as many of the assault SMGs, the shotguns and such like, but if you can play well with it, get the first shot off regularly in your engagements and position well, it's more than possible to outplay assaults at close to mid range. You can totally run and gun with it and be completely fine. The issues then come in at longer mid range to actual long range. It's not designed to specifically compete there, right? It falls behind the actual mid to long range orientated medic rifles, some LMGs, the bolt action rifles and such, right? Well, yes, technically, but also no, or not to a truly detrimental degree if you know how to use it. And I hope my gameplay has already been illustrating this point for me. The key is recoil control and tap firing. I tap fire fire with this gun probably more now than I just hold the trigger down for full auto. And despite it maybe requiring more shots to kill at longer ranges than the competition, if you're good with it, your accuracy can overcome that deficit while maintaining close range domination over a lot of other medic rifles because it's full auto, because it's designed for close quarters and such like. I get some surprising range kills with the Fedorov on a pretty regular basis, but you do need to be aware that you have to try to be pretty stationary a lot of the time when going for the longer range kills, otherwise you increase your spread to a large degree. I only really move a significant amount when going for the longer range kills when I'm trying to outstrafe a sniper, knowing that I have more leeway to miss my shots as long as the enemy doesn't get an easy head or body shot kill on me. It's an awesome gun if you can use it well, a good gun for the casual player playing within its intended range, and then a pretty lackluster gun for any player who wants to use it in the more expansive manner that I've described without knowing how to actually do it, because BF1 doesn't tell the player how to best use the guns at all, and that's a whole other video I can go into. Let me know if you want it. Anyway, that's why the Fedorov Optical is my choice for the medic class. Moving on, and I need to hurry up, I always do this and go way too in-depth in what's supposed to be just a light fun video. For support, it's the Shosha, low weight, I think that's how you pronounce it, because it's an absolute destroyer of worlds, if you're accurate. This thing just slays. It's so consistent. Again, utilize full auto and tap fire when the situation calls for each one. At close to mid-range, generally full auto. At long range, more often tap fire, and you've got a very consistent killing tool on support. 3 shots to center mass out to 20 meters and 4 shots beyond that. This produces a very competitive and reliable time to kill as it fires at 360 rounds per minute. So if we compare with say the M1917 MG low weight, a gun that's endured criticism before for being low skill, easy to use, has a huge ammo capacity, a hold the trigger down scrub gun and other complete nonsense, well the Shosha kills faster than it at all relevant ranges, up to like 120 meters or whatever. It also kills faster than something like the MG15 out to 20 meters, etc. It's pretty much your nice middle ground gun on support, if you can be accurate. A cross between the close range slayers of the support class and the long range more hold the trigger down options. A gun that kills pretty quickly up close if you're accurate, while still being able to knock people down at longer range if used correctly. Not being the best in class for either scenario, but being good at both, that's the key. The drawback and necessary balancing factor being the 20 round magazine. That's not a huge amount of bullets, but overall I think it's a great gun. It can be a run and gun versatile option, which allows you to play essentially however you like, as long as you have the skill set for it. I highly recommend putting some time into this weapon if you haven't done so before. And so we come to the scout class, and predictably, I've come back to my Martini Henry infantry. I took some time away, played around with other stuff, listed the Arisaka as being my choice in late 2020, but it was inevitable that this time would come. The Martini is incredible for the right player. It's not for long range sniping, it's not for precisely picking headshots a lot of the time, it's for getting kind of into the mix and blasting people away at somewhat close range, and I'll explain all that. It's super high damage and has a sweet spot, or one shot to the body kill range, of 30 to 80 meters. But for that and after that, it requires 2 shots to kill, and therein lies why it's not liked by everyone, whether they be good, bad or average players. It just depends on the individual, and this is why it does require skill and positioning. At super close range, you can't just run in and blast someone to get a kill. You'll only do 90 damage inside 20 meters. So you have to find the correct range, or get good at hitting someone close up and finishing with a sidearm, or indeed just maining a sidearm at close range. And then for long range, you need to be really good. It's got slow muzzle velocity and some notable bullet drop, so lining up and leading shots can be tricky, and a headshot will be required on full health enemies at longer ranges. But man, when you put it all together, the Martini is scary. An absolute monster for the enemy to deal with if you can manage to master the Martini. You'll be able to put in some serious work on the right map, and so it's my choice for the best scout gun in BF1 in early 2021. And so, what are your choices? Let me know in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, liking and subscribing for more would be super appreciated, especially with the new Battlefield coming this year, and I promise to do everything I can to be a worthwhile source for that game. Watch out for my regular streams. All the links to my Twitter, Discord, Patreon and all of that are in the description and my pinned comment. And with all of that said, I'm GetGoodGuy, and I'll see you next time. Laters.
Oh, Davey boy. Move, no!
Wait, I'll come back, I'll come back. That's the best way to do it, really. Because the only recommendation, the only way of getting... the only algorithm that Twitch has is the number of viewers. So if you're not the top viewer for a certain category, you're just going to be